Lovely people, welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about renting versus owning a home. Why or why not doing, rent versus own. This is my opinion. Again, I'm not a financial advisor, but I'm sharing based on my personal experiences and what I've learned through as a first home owner. First of all, for those that are currently having a temporary jobs or in residency, I would recommend not to own. Really think about renting. And the reason because I would say wherever you are for your residency is a temporary means, and spending money up a lot of like down payment. Let's say your house is $200,000 to start with, right? You have to come with a 20% down payment and also come with the closing costs, which could be 5% to buy or 10% to sell the house. So if you only in the house, if you only stay there for like 1 or 2 years during your residency, then renting is the best way, because it takes a while for your real estate, your property to appreciate to the value where you can actually earn a profit on it. And there are some locations in certain areas that don't appreciate over time and actually stay steady, or you might lose money depending on how the market goes with the supply and demand of the buyers versus sellers. So in short, I think if you are only staying somewhere for less than 3 years, I would recommend to rent instead of buying a house. For those that are looking to buy a house, really look at your financials. Do you have enough vested in terms of saving up for your down payment? Again, you need at least 20%. So if you look at a $100,000 house, which you can't really find a $100,000 house, depending on where you live, of course. But a $100,000 house with 20% down, you are looking at $20,000, right? At minimum, but that's like for down payment. You're not looking at closing costs, and then of course, and closing costs include like realtor fees and all this stuff that you have to pay. And then next thing, your house is empty, and you need to fill it up with furniture and sofas, bed, and it takes a lot more money. So it's a very, very gruesome process. In terms of financially vested and also emotionally vested and time wise, because when you go and pick out a house, it's not like you go and pick out fruit. You got to spend quality time picking out the ones that you truly want in a subdivision that you like, looking at the school, if later on you plan to have kids that are in good school system, and the commute. So there's so many different factors that you have to take into account when buying a house. So it's a serious investment, and you don't want to take it lightly. And especially if you still have student loans or credit card loans that you have not paid off yet, I would recommend holding off on buying and really just rent. And with renting, you don't have to get a luxurious studio. You can think about renting with a roommate, so that cut down your costs. And with home ownership, there are costs associated with after the closing process. Like I said, you need to furnish up some money for the furniture and other things you want to put in the house. But in addition, maintenance, repairs. So if you're getting a house where it's not move-in ready, you have to also think about getting contractors, fix up the house, make it good. So again, more time and more money. So anywhere it takes time away from you doing what you need to do, that's also money. So think of it that way as well. So what I'm trying to tell you guys is that if you're only stay somewhere for less than 3 years, go ahead and rent. Do not buy. If you are going to buy, think about the student, all your debt that you have. So do you have student loan, credit card debt, any other debts that would card loan debts, right? And try to pay off those first before you get a home, because it's going to be financially straining. And one last thing you want to do is get a home for a few years, and then your job is not stable, or you lose your job, and then you basically being foreclosed by the bank, and hence all that hard work that you put into the house you cannot afford it because you can't pay for it. That's my take on renting versus owning. So for those that have gone past the staying somewhere permanently, and you know that's going to be where you would like to locate for at least 5 to 10 years, and also start paying down all your debts that you have, then start owning a home. So start saving up 20%, like I said, for down payment, and leave it there for 6 months in the bank. If you go through the traditional way of getting a loan through a bank, they usually like to look at your bank account 6 months out from whatever date that you have put an application for pre-approval and a loan. They would look at anything that, quote, suspicious, if a large transaction that you keep moving money back and forth, or if you get a gift from parents or whoever, they will also want to track that down. So they go during the underwriting process, they look at every single cracks and corners of your account and where the money comes from. So you want to just save up money, let it sit there nicely for 6 months, and then you're like, all right, I'm gonna go get finalized and doing the process buying a house. One other thing is that you want to also, even before you start looking, or during this, you can do this simultaneously. When you're looking for a house, make sure you go and get a pre-approval, because you can look at all the houses you want, but if you find a truly your dream home, but you don't have a pre-approval letter from the bank, guess what? You're not in the race. Other people are going to get that house before you get it, because honestly, the bank takes a while to give you a pre-approval letter, and there's a process that comes with that. So if you know that you have truly vested and want to go get a house, make sure you go to the bank and get pre-approval. And what I would recommend is go to several banks. Of course, the banks that you have had relationship with for years, then that might be a good starting point. But go to a local bank, a credit union, and of course those large banks too. Go to wherever that gives you the best rate, that would be for your home mortgage. So final recap: 1, rent if you live somewhere for less than 3 years. 2, make sure you pay all your debts or most of your debts before you start owning a home. 3, really consider the amount of time as well as emotional and financial strain that will be on you when you're starting to having your first home. And your first home is not your only home. Most people are like, oh, it's my first home and I'm going to stay for 20 years. You probably won't stay for 20, 30 years. You may or may not, but the likelihood of you moving to another home is very likely, especially when you're expanding, and you may have with job locations, who knows what. Life is unpredictable. Nothing is fixed, right? So just make sure you come into that mindset as like, this is a great home, I'm gonna stay there, but it's not a one and done. And last part is get a pre-approval while you're looking at houses, because you need that letter, and it makes you more competitive when you actually saw or see a house that you like and want to put an offer in, because they will look at that first before having someone just say, oh yeah, that looks good. And I hope that has been very helpful to you. These are some things that I wish I have known as I'm going into my first home. I'll do one on negotiation. There are some flexibility with that, and honestly, I didn't know this at all. So stay tuned, subscribe to my channel, and I will do a video on negotiating on your first home. Thank you. Take care.